My friends, it just keeps happening. New strategies discovered after nearly 20 years of playing the same video game. This time it's in Perfect Dark, a new strategy which has already resulted in 6 untied world records between 3 familiar characters. And of course, of the game's 20 stages, of course the new strategy is on the one in Perfect Dark I've done a speed lore episode on, making it already outdated. Yes, we're talking about the level called Datadyne Investigation. Now I know Perfect Dark isn't as well known as GoldenEye, so I'll briefly go over how the level is played. The 2 objectives that are consistent across all 3 difficulties are: use your cam spy to take a picture of, or holograph, the radioactive isotope, and then locate Dr. Carroll, which is just short for reaching the end of the level. Your cam spy is a gadget and sort of a remotely controllable drone that can take pictures and on some other levels explode or do other things, and using it for this objective is pretty intuitive. Getting to the end of the level, though, is another story, because of these 3 sets of lasers that stand in your way. Luckily, there's this cleaning bot, like a Roomba or something, that strolls around a predetermined path, and when it reaches the lasers, they lower it so it and you can pass through. Now, the cleaning bot never seemed to go at exactly the same speed. There were always a bunch of superstitions about how to get a fast bot, which we believed for a long time was based on random things ranging from lag to the position of guards to praying to your favorite deity. And we try a bunch of stuff like changing the game's settings to 16:9 display or high definition, all in hopes of getting a fast bot. Obviously, the faster the bot clears the final laser, the faster your speedrun. Luckily, in the year 2012, it was discovered that you could skip through the lasers with a very precise crouch movement that required frame, angle, XYZ vector, and speed perfection. Extremely difficult. But of course, this is speedrunning, so it was used to lower the world records on the agent and special agent difficulties from 127 to 103 and 207 to 2 minutes. It was never used on Perfect Agent, the highest difficulty though, because it's a very hard level to survive, and attempting the laser skips on top of that was just too challenging. Technically possible, but not something anyone got around to trying in the game's history. And it's a good thing no one spent too long trying it, because the new strategy involves a faster way for the bot to lower the lasers, or more precisely, gets the bot to move faster throughout the level. And since its discovery only 2.5 weeks ago, has resulted in 3 untied world records on Perfect Agent, 3 on Special Agent, and 10 total world records achieved across the 3 difficulties. So what was discovered, and how? Well, let's introduce Kevin DDR. I don't think I've brought him up yet in the context of Perfect Dark speedrunning. Some may know him from his legendary GDQ Tetris runs in the past, or for becoming the first Grandmaster in Tetris Grandmaster 3 outside of Japan. And while he still plays Tetris occasionally, he's actually become a very good Perfect Dark speedrunner of late, breaking into the top 50 on the world rankings and tying a pair of Carl Jobst's immensely strong untied world records. Well, Kevin was experimenting around on Investigation, trying to make a trick more consistent, where if you look away to unload the cleaning bot, it can sometimes pass through and lower the lasers without losing any speed. Though this had still always been on the more superstition, sorcery side of Perfect Dark strategies. Well, Kevin was trying to go into the cam spy in another room and see if this would have any effect on the bot moving through the lasers. Here's a clip where he creates a particularly strong effect on the bot and lasers.
We gotta wait till it would be decelerating. Like right now. Is that enough? Oh my god, I'm getting it untied right now! Holy no way! This is the moment of truth.
Kevin made a thread about the discovery, and soon many began tinkering on the level to see if this could be replicated or explained. White Ted is another new character in the Elite community, sort of like your typical nerd programmer who can dig into the game's code far deeper than what anyone else has been able to do before, and he's already discovered some other strategies or anomalies in both GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. White Ted and Kevin exchanged ideas on what happened, and what would end up being discovered was something truly remarkable. Basically, the bot will slow down at doors, lasers, corners, and then accelerate back to its normal speed. If you activate the cam spy on one of the frames where the bot is accelerating, the bot briefly speeds up and goes way faster than usual in what we've since dubbed the zoom. Watch the speed of the bot when you're just watching it normally travel around the stage. Now watch it move when it zooms. That is some remarkable speed the bot can reach now. Okay, so let's talk about some runs. The world record on Perfect Agent stood at 2:34 by Carl Jobst, a zoomless run he got back in July. So the night the strategy was discovered, November 7th, there was a bit of a gold rush, where numerous runners attempted to get in on the action and beat this record. Kevin DDR himself got a 2:39, followed by a 2:36. Flickerform got a 2:36 and a 2:35, nearly matching the record, and both these men had multiple runs which very nearly could have untied the level, giving them a moment of fleeting glory. But of course it would be none other than Carl Jobst to finally beat the mark with a 2:33. If we take a look at Carl's zoomless 2:34, we'll notice that the bot is taking down the first set of lasers at about 1:33. On the zoom full 2:33, it takes down the lasers around 1:34. On the zoomless 2:34, Carl gets through the third lasers at 1:44. But now watch the zoom full 2:33 play out. Even though the bot was slower to the first lasers, he gets through the third set at 1:41, 3 seconds faster than the zoomless run. And his zooms weren't even perfect. You see, we learn that the reason the bot goes so fast after activating the cam spy while the bot is accelerating is because of how, as Kevin describes it, the game is trying to juggle running a bunch of scripts at the same time. One of these scripts controls the speed and acceleration of the cleaning bot. It pretty much says, okay, if the bot is stopped, it will accelerate at this rate for a certain number of frames, then reach top speed and maintain that speed until it has to stop again. And generally speaking, the scripts have a way of compensating for dropped frames. Like if you get a huge lag spike and drop 30 frames, the in-game timer will know that you dropped all those frames and compensate a full second to the timer, even though the frames were dropped. However, the script for the bot's speed and acceleration just happens to miss that exact scenario. So, let's say the cleaning bot accelerates for 1 frame. Then you select the cam spy, which creates lag. The bot forgets to stop accelerating for about 10 frames, accelerating to a speed beyond its normal cap. In the Carl 2:33 run, he does the trick on the first frame of the bot accelerating, but it turns out if you do the trick later into the bot's acceleration, the last frame it's doable seems to be the 6th visible frame of the bot accelerating, then you get even more frames where the bot is accelerating when it shouldn't be. Basically the entire 10 frames that were dropped when entering the cam spy. So, if we assume the bot normally is supposed to accelerate for 6 frames, on Carl's 2:33, it might accelerate for 11 frames, and on an ideal run, it might accelerate for 16 frames. That's accelerate, which means the speed it ultimately reaches is far higher than anything it should ever be able to attain, and it carries this speed until the next time its path is programmed to slow it down by turning a corner, opening a door, or taking down the lasers. With that in mind, it became a puzzle as to when and where you should pause to get the best bot acceleration and save the most time. On Special and Perfect Agent, you have to do additional objectives before the lasers, which explains the discrepancy in time compared to Agent, and on Perfect Agent you do yet another objective after the lasers, which is why that's even slower than Special Agent. On both the two harder difficulties, you actually have to program the bot yourself, initializing its movement, Objective 2, which gives you the opportunity to follow it from its initial path. Ideally, you could just follow the bot around its entire path, speeding it up each time it accelerates. But like I mentioned, there are other objectives to do on those difficulties, and you need time to do those, so you have to leave the bot behind. So the best we can do are a few early bot zooms, and then you'll see a few seemingly random cam spy activations, which are just kind of Hail Marys, or prayers that you're activating the cam spy as the bot happens to be in a state of acceleration. You know, they're not quite prayers, as we have a general idea of the bot's path and when it stops and accelerates, but they are indeed blind attempts at getting the bot zoom, which obviously can't be perfect every time. Okay, with that knowledge, let's continue the timeline of runs. Carl's 233 was improved after only a few hours by Brian Bosshart's 232, but this 232 was matched the following day by both David Clemens and Carl Jobst. 2 days later, on November 10th, Clemens turned his sights to Special Agent, where he tied the 2-minute record, held by Carl and Elu. They both had to use the old triple laser skip strategy, a pretty much impossible strategy that no human should have ever attempted, let alone completed. And it's moments like these that make it kind of unfortunate in a way, that runs which used such an absurd, challenging strategy become obsoleted. But suffice to say, we were off to the races on the new strategy. The following night, Clemens returned to Special Agent, attempting to untie the stage using 3 zooms, including 1 blind zoom, and he got this run.
Let's put it to work. But
Well, the only thing is that we're like that, so
I gotta go fast, man. Go, go, go!
well, I need to ask someone. Not.
I haven't seen you before. Who the hell are you?
Yes!
Switch this, pull the plug on that.
Oh! Woo! Alright. This is it. This is it, boys. This is it. This is it, boys.
Unfortunately, I have to mute the second half of the run as he turned on the song True Faith by New Order after the final zoom, one of his favorite bands and the origins of his Perfect Dark alias. Clemens then figured to keep it rolling and turned his sights to Perfect Agent, looking to improve the now 3-way tied record of 232. About 20 minutes later, he got this run.
Whoa! I owned those guards.
Hey, you!
Who shot me?
Intruder alert!
That was very uncalled for.
Look out! He's coming!
Right in the fucking head. Got a 159, baby.
What are you
Woo! There's a bot!
I haven't seen you before. Who the hell are you?
Switch this thing off, pull the
Yes!
Someone here.
Holy man. I'm gonna die. I have no health. This run's insane. This run's completely unnecessarily fast. Alright, that should be perfect. Oh, my life! I'm not dead. Oh my god, that was sloppy, but I fucking got him. Yes! That ending was garbage! That ending was shit, but I lived. Oh my god. I caked it.
Dr. Carroll?
I f***ing caked it.
Dr. Carroll, are you here?
Dude, that ending was so bad.
You must leave.
That ending was f***ing atrocious. That was like the worst f***ing ending I've ever seen.
You must protect.
But I somehow got 229 out of it. He caked it.
2 untieds in about 30 minutes. The absolute madman. While this isn't the first time Clemens has achieved 2 untieds in the same day, 2 in the same live stream session is really, really impressive, especially in this day and age. However, the following evening, Boss would make use of an extra zoom in the basement, resulting in a 158 on Special Agent, something Clemens would match the next day. As the strategies began to refine and the off-screen zooms became more predictable, Clemens pushed for lower on Special Agent, and on November 14th, got this run.
Yes. Let's go. Let's go.
Who the hell are you?
Come on.
Switch this thing off. Pull the
Yes.
plug on that.
Yes. Woo. That's a fast 5. Whew, that was risky. I probably shouldn't have even gone for that. Oh, what? I lost a second, but whatever. It's only 157. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I choked 155. But it's okay.
Clemens lowered the Special and Perfect Agent records from 2 minutes and 2:34 to 1:56 and 2:29. 9 seconds vanished from the Perfect Dark overall time. A stunning development in this speed game 18 years out of its release. And lower on these 2 difficulties is definitely possible. Clemens lost a second by missing his initial door open press on his 156, and the ending of his 229, as he said, was a bit messy. Plus, there still might be some additional viable bot zooms out there, given the recency of this discovery. Dr. Carrington, can you give me Cam Spy? To holograph the radioactive isotope? Yes? Actually zooms bot like a boss. Untied time. On November 12th, Boss used a hybrid strategy, combining both bot zooming and laser skipping to tie Agent 103, previously tied by Carl and Ilu, who had to use a double laser skip strategy. On Agent, the bot is moving around the level at all times, even during the opening cutscene, so its position depends on when you cut that cutscene. Back then, you'd cut it in such a way that it would be taking down the 3rd laser by the time you skip the 1st and 2nd lasers. But the new method involves getting to the lasers as the bot is taking down the 2nd laser, zooming it to the 1st, which enables you to get through both, something previously not possible, and then attempting a skip on the 3rd laser. Clemens has been grinding hard for the past week for 102 to complete the Untied sweep, and he's had a number of close calls, just barely missing the laser skip on record pace. You know, I even think there's a good chance he gets 103 or 102 in between recording this audio and uploading this video. He got a 103.94 last decimal, which rounded up to a 104 as well, so despite the untides on the other difficulties, Agent just doesn't want to give yet. So there's the story of the new strategy discovered on Perfect Dark's investigation stage. 10 world records, 6 untieds, 9 seconds cut from the game so far, and counting. And honestly, I don't think in this case we were blind for not having discovered this earlier. The reality is that, before we had this knowledge, it's very possible that runs which had a supernaturally fast bot may have been runs where pausing to deploy the cam spy as intended just happened to coincide with a moment where the bot was accelerating. We'd never have known this though, since we'd never have been able to see it, but it would partly explain why the bot mysteriously varied in speed so much back then. Perfect Dark has always been much less played, and hence analyzed, than GoldenEye. But with new players like Kevin DDR exploring and pushing the bounds of Perfect Dark, tools becoming available to really dig into the code of the game, and guys like White Ted being able to use these proficiently, we could be at the dawn of a new era of enlightenment in Perfect Dark, where tons of new strategies like this are just about to be discovered, and the entire history of the game is set to be rewritten. Actually, even as a quick footnote, a small strategy on all cam spy levels has been discovered. Pausing an additional time after deploying the cam spy cancels out the lag frames, which saves about 0.5 seconds on the Chicago and Airbase stages, and has resulted in a number of tied records already. And another strategy on Mayan SOS, where if you pause a bunch of times, it forces scientists to run scripts where they want to open a door more frequently, which you can then shoot through to complete an objective, has also been discovered, and a runner, Madoka, used this to get a 1 second untied, 151 on Special Agent. So perhaps the new era of enlightenment is already well underway. In any case, we'll be sure to see more Perfect Dark records soon, and I will definitely give updates on any major developments in the speed game. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like to increase the chances of a new strategy being discovered in your speed game or field of work, and subscribe with notifications on to always know when I upload a new video. In the meantime, stay true, my friends, and I will see you in the next stream or video.